Let's start today's session. No matter where you are, how busy you are, this moment, this time, this space, can one put aside everything else on the mind? Just put aside everything the mind is busy with. Let's come back to this moment. In silence. Let's come back to silence. So in the next 15 minutes, listen, feel, observe. Don't get entangled in the movement of thoughts. Just observe. There's only pure observation, which is not verbal. The mind can do it. So just give your full attention. Listen the sound around you. Feel the sensation from all over the body. Observe the movement of thoughts without being distracted, entangled. Be with all the compulsions that tend to drive the mind into thoughts. And that compulsion is still the sensation of the neuron cells. So can one be with all that without getting trapped in the river of various thought contents? So let's do it now. To set a tone for this session, you can sit down or lie down. It doesn't matter what gesture or style you have. You just follow the essence, capture the essence of it, full attention, completely passive. Observe, alert, putting aside all the verbal things, thoughts, ideas, concepts. In other words, let's die together. Die to this moment. Die to the old things brought about by thoughts, various mental construct. Okay, let's do it now. Why is the mind always attached to something? In that attachment, there are various troubles, entanglement, conflict, and the mind seeks detachment. And then the detachment brings about another attachment. So the mind is always attached. What happens to the mind? Has one ever asked oneself, can the mind be free of the attachment completely? Or one has accepted that one is attached, and all the things are based on attachment. So the mind has accepted the suffering, the pain, this life, which is always stuck in something, trapped in a groove. To be free of all attachment is not to seek detachment. Detachment is merely a reaction to attachment. Because the mind wants to get rid of attachment, therefore detachment becomes the channel. But can the mind be free of the attachment completely? That's to say, the mind must understand the essence of attachment, get insight into this consciousness, and see the light. Talking about attachment, we have to talk about identification. The mind always identifies itself with something. And that something becomes part of the self, the me. And in that identification, the mind develops reactions, these so-called protective reactions, to defend, to protect that thing. In this daily interactions between different people, the self-defense or self-protection is quite common. Because the mind always identifying itself with something else. Is that identification part of the attachment, or the other way around? Are the two the same process? Can the mind observe itself, this movement of thoughts, in identifying something? In identification, the mind feels certain, feels it is something. And that's something which gives the mind a sense of confirmation or uncertainty. Become what the mind is seeking all the time, isn't it? When the mind identifies itself with something, the mind is caught up in illusion of being something. And in being something, the mind wants to become something else. So being and becoming is a process of identifying, isn't it? And in that process, there's attachment. Or in other words, being, becoming, and being attached is one process. Can the mind stop being? When the mind is not identifying itself with anything, as the mind is observing diligently, carefully, there's no being. One can say that one is nothing. And being nothing, in being nothing, there's nothing to be attached to. And in being nothing, the mind does not want to become something else. But as long as the mind is something, the mind always wants to become something more, something better. So the mind keeps seeking, searching, reaching. And in that seeking, which is a continuous process, the mind is trapped in the illusory sense of continuity. And that continuity and attachment is one thing, isn't it? When the mind breaks the circle of continuity, there's no attachment. Please be careful about this. We have developed many terms about different things, but we need to go beyond all the verbal terms to see the one thing. The continuity and the attachment is one process. And in being and becoming, the mind is trapped in the continuity. And that continuity has a center, which is the ego, the me, the self. And when the mind is identifying itself with something, it creates the sense of me, or the me. Because in being something, the me feels so real, so true. But they are all illusion. Can the mind see that? Can the mind see the fact as a fact? This is not the speaker's personal opinion or ideas or viewpoint. Those are the psychological facts. But the mind is so easy to regard it as the speaker's opinion, refusing to see the fact as fact. Because there's a wall around the self, which is always protective and resisting. Therefore, translating the fact into idea, which is in essence the refusal to accept facts as fact. That's the real challenge for the mind, isn't it? Can the mind see the fact as a fact? The mind keeps identifying itself with something, which is the process of being. In being, the me is created. And the me feels so true because being is so real, quoted real. But the process of being is the thought process. The mind identifies itself with something else. It's a thought process. And that process is also the attachment to a thought. Therefore, it creates a very real sense of being. Real is quoted because it's not real. And that illusion keeps distorting the mind. That illusion keeps misguiding the mind. And that illusion give the mind a false sense of security. Which further enhance the attachment to thoughts because that's security. Of course, one needs security physically. But when the mind gets the wrong security, it's trapped and stuck. Can one observe all of those? So in being, everything is continuous. because the me is always there, abiding. With all its reactions, feelings, and all that. At the same time, the mind keeps identifying itself with something more. So this is a accumulating process. The me, the self, the ego become expansive. So the center is always there, with all its attachment. When there's attachment, there's conflict. The whole neuron cells are resistant attachment. But in the essence of attachment, there is the me. The me is always there. The me is the product and the result of the disordered mind. The disorder created by thoughts. So the mind, or the me, the self, keeps seeking detachment to alleviate the symptoms of being attached. But seeking detachment is still seeking experience. A feeling of being relieved temporarily. But then attachment is formed again. So the mind is trapped from one hole to another. Here comes the question. Can the mind break up the continuity? That's to say, can the mind explode the center? Without that center, which is the me, the self, there's no continuity. But when the me is there, continuity implies consistency, security, certainty, and all that. But the mind is in great trouble in that continuity. So if we may, let's delve into the continuity. What is that? What's that feeling of continuity? Is that psychological time? When the mind is functioning in the psychological time, everything is continuous. My past, my future. So is that one process? I mean, time is the process of continuity, isn't it? Living in time, everything is continuing. And the attachment is also continuing. Because the attachment itself implies the sense of time, isn't it? They're always attached. Attached means time. If there's no time, psychologically, if there's no time psychologically, there's no attachment, no continuity. Can one make sense of what the speaker says? Because we are not talking about ideas, theories, or any difficult concept. The mind is stuck in time, and time creating this sense of a continuity. And in that continuity, there's security, loop, traps the mind, or the pattern, whatever you call it. As we discuss up to this point, we can say to really end the attachment completely is to end this continuity. To end this continuity is to end the time psychologically. To end the time psychologically is to end me. And everything the mind has accumulated, empty it. So the mind is no longer stuck in the past, no longer craving future. As we said earlier today, the mind is seeking great psychological security in that disordered loop pattern. To end the attachment means the mind must stop seeking psychological security. It's a great discovery, isn't it? If one can follow this, we go deeply into the psyche. We inquire, observe, discover, and find that to end attachment is to end seeking psychological security. And it can be very demanding and challenging when the mind is so indulged with the psychological security. just like the me feels so true. The continuity feels so true. Also, the psychological security also feels so real. But all of those implies attachment. Can one say that? What is psychological security? Does it really exist? Or it is merely an illusion? When the mind is seeking psychological security, what is the mind actually going through? What's that process of seeking psychological security? The mind seeks certainty, confirmation. Whatever you call, from thoughts. Can be an idea, can be seeing, can be some theories or systems. So the mind or the self, the me, seeks certainty, confirmation. Stability from thought. And when the mind is trapped in that feeling feels so true, so real. So seeking security psychologically is seeking certainty from thoughts. And in that seeking, the mind is attached to thought, right? And in that seeking, thoughts have been fixed and therefore accumulated. Becoming part of me, the self, which is the process of identification. Can one say that? Can one see the oneness of all the things here? So in seeking thoughts are fixed and therefore accumulated. And they reckon to thoughts, which can be a sense of security or confirmation or whatever. It's also perpetuated. So the mind feels it is so true, so real. And that perpetuation is also continuity, isn't it? And the mind is stuck in the known. Because it seeks psychological security from it. There's attachment there, and the mind and the thoughts are fixed, and the mind is trapped in the known. Can the mind see the whole process as it is? Can the mind get insight into this? We have tried different expressions to point to the same thing. So when the thoughts are fixed and accumulated, is that a factor that leads the mind into very great trouble? Thoughts are the neural activities. Thoughts are always temporary. It comes and goes. It's part of the neuron functions, the intelligence of the neuron cells. But it's a temporary process. But when the mind is seeking security from thoughts, that temporary process becomes permanent. And that impermanency, of course, is an illusion. Implies continuity, attachment and all that. And the mind can find great satisfaction, security, in that continuity, in that permanency. Please see the fact that thoughts are temporary process, which means it is impermanent. But when the mind make it permanent, make it fixed, then creating an illusion of permanency. just like the whole brain is flowing water. But when something fixed, the flowing is blocked. When there's a blockage, there must be conflict, right? Just like in a flowing river, there's a wall in between, and there's direct clash between the vault and the wall, which inevitably cause turbulence and various problems. So the temporary process, which our thoughts are made fixed, creating the illusion of permanency, continuity, security, and all that. But it is a go against the nature of the neuron cells. Therefore, conflict is there. And the trouble is also out of this attachment. So can the mind correct all of those? Thoughts are always temporary. Then can the thoughts stay temporary? Not making them fixed. Not making them fixed means the mind must stop seeking any psychological security. The seeking creates the illusion of the psychological security. When the mind stops seeking, everything is what is. Flow with it without grasping. Clean. So thoughts stay temporary, stay as they are. So come back to this point. Can the mind stop seeking anything? There's no such thing called psychological security. Psychologically, everything is uncertain. Can the mind be with that? That's to say, the mind stops seeking anything. Because seeking makes mind into illusion. An illusion with all the misconception, reaction, trap the mind further. So can the mind be free of all the illusions? That's to say, the mind stops seeking anything from thoughts. Psychologically, there's nothing certain. Can the mind stay with the uncertainty, not running away from it? Then everything's all right. Can the mind find its way to see the light? When the mind put aside all the psychological security, the ego, the me, the self, feels endangered, feels greatly threatened. There could be immediate and instant turbulence, but they are all temporary. Can the mind go through it without stepping back? When the mind is determined, well, we don't use that word, when the mind devotes itself to ending the addiction, to the non-existent psychological security, can the mind hold and go through the temporary turbulence? Can the mind work its way to unload all the psychological security? That takes no time. The mind must be out of time, therefore out of all the psychological security with its accumulations. So stop seeking. Be with what is. Just be quiet. Die to all the things one has already accumulated. Die to all the things made by man. The real life is out of time. The real life is timeless. And can that be the reality of one's living? The reality is based on truth, not on illusions. Also time. One discovers that one is nothing. And voluntarily be nothing. In that nothingness, everything comes to an end. All the negativities are gone. But of course, being nothing sounds very negative to the me, to the ego, to the self. But when the mind can actually be nothing, the mind unwittingly discovers what is real negativity, what is real positivity, not negativity. And in that being nothing, actually, therefore, no becoming, no seeking, no attachment, no continuity. There's genuine positivity. I think that's so much for this session. So let's start another 10 minutes silence. As a signature to end today's session. In silence, let's savor the meaning of what we have been going through and discovered. All right. That's the end of today's session. Hopefully we can meet in the future sessions. Take care.